Welcome to I Caught It on Audio. This is Ride or Die episode 19. PJ Harvey, part 4.
Hello and welcome to I Caught It on Audio. Today we're continuing our Ride or Die series where we pick a band and do a deep dive into their complete discography. This is our final episode, which is episode 4 of PJ Harvey. We're going to be covering her last 3 albums, Let England Shake, Hope Six Demolition Project, and I Inside the Year... Oh, Jesus. I Inside the Old Year Dying. Oh, thank God I don't
Didn't
have to
make
say
it
that.
Easy this time.
No, that was a tough one. Anyway, so we're starting off with Let England Shake, which came out 2 years after A Woman, a Man Walked By. So this one's pretty quick. We've got Flood, Mick Harvey, and John Parrish, and PJ Harvey, all producers on this one. What do we have? We have 3 singles: The Words That Maketh Murder, The Glorious Land, and Written on the Forehead. So, Dan, why don't you start? Tell us what you thought of this one.
So this lyrically is definitely like a sort of concept, anti-war,
Absolutely.
what England's up to, out in, historically and currently at the time, 2011 with all the all the post 9/11 stuff that England and the US got into. That makes it a little less fun than it could be. But sometimes that's not the point of an album. So that's totally fine. I thought this was solid all the way through. It had a little bit more jangle. That was kind of the sort of sound I was noticing the most. It's a little bit dour and not the most cheerful album. And so while I didn't dislike almost any song, I think the only one I didn't, give the old thumbs up to is England, the song England. PJ was definitely giving me a thumbs down to England for most of this album. The country.
She wasn't a big fan.
No,
of this one, that's for sure.
And I my highlights. Let's see, I had my highlights as The Words That Maketh Murder, On Battleship Hill, In the Dark Places, and The Color of the Earth. I would say that this was very good, but didn't have the highs, like the really sort of jump out highs that some of our albums have. I don't have anything too negative to say, but I don't have a ton of like high praise either. I thought it was quite good and probably important and valuable. Of course, these sorts of albums are often received rapturously by critics because of their political angle. And while that is interesting and a worthy thing to write about, I guess I thought this was just good. What about you, Dave? What were your thoughts?
So I'm not a big fan of artists taking a strong stance on this type of thing. That's not what I seek out in my pleasure. I come to music to relax and to, I'm not saying I can't have emotions involved in it, but I don't need to be preached to in music. And if she wants to do that, that's great. I hope she's taking actual actions to go along with it, rather than just recording an album. And she very well may have. I don't know. This whole album kind of turned me off. I did not care for it one bit. I did thumbs up Let England Shake, but beyond that, it was hard for me to get beyond the whole preachiness of it and the I don't know. It's the same thing with like Rage Against the Machine. I'm not a big fan of them anymore because it's just too much angst about stuff that clearly has not changed in the 30 years since Rage started. So what the hell was the whole point? But I didn't care for it that much, if I'm being honest. It was a downside in her catalog, and just got 1 thumbs up, and I don't have much intention of going back to it. Zach, what did you think of this one?
I'm a little in between the two of you guys. I found it to be interesting and enjoyable in some ways, and kind of not so great in other ways, like you, Dave. I thought it was interesting how the White Chalk album was more of a kind of Victorian era feel to it, and then this one has more of like a colonial type of feel to it almost. You've got those what is it, like the marching horns or whatever in the glorious land, the and it was. It kind of fit that song, but it also kind of didn't. It was very strange sort of use of that. And I think what it comes down to me, for me with this kind of thing is I don't really mind if they have the message, like you were saying, Dave, as long as they're not trying to like ram it down your throat and it's not that extremely in your face. And I thought for the most of this, it wasn't. Like, it was pretty good, sort of subtle, kind of subtextual. I mean, there was definitely some in your face stuff. But I think that the line, "What if I take my problem to the United Nations?" That one just felt a little shoehorned in there. It's like, can you say that same sentiment in a different way that it just doesn't feel so obvious, you know?
Exactly. It was,
but I
it
think
was not subtle.
Yeah. Overall, I think it's still an enjoyable album. I had quite a few thumbs up throughout, and I really liked All and Everyone. There's just something about that one, how it kind of starts off one way and then goes a different way with the chorus. And I just really like the way that she's singing on that one. So that's my big highlight for the album. But overall, I don't think there was that much more that was extremely memorable, other than like the horns and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a little bit of a letdown for me as well, but I still got some enjoyment out of listening to it throughout.
What's everyone's favorite song from this one? Mine was Let England Shake.
All and Everyone.
I think I like The Color of the Earth the most. I'm not sure, because this one didn't have one that really jumped out to me as much, because it felt a little bit samey at times. So there were good ones, or ones that I liked, and as I'm looking at my notes, I think that one was because it had this sort of old folk song feel to it, and the guest vocals shook things up a little bit. Having a male voice on there too, just to to give you some difference in sort of tonality. So I think maybe that one. I'll say I don't care if people want to make music about politics, and I also don't care if if people are like, I don't want to hear about that. That makes sense to me too. I think that some of them were very awkward, like Zach mentioned, the United Nations line. But I think making an album about something is doing something when people are going to listen to it. I wouldn't say that, that means nothing, because you're drawing attention to it. And whether or not that makes change or not, I don't think that means people shouldn't do that. All that being said, if that turns you off, then I don't feel no one should feel obligated to listen to quote unquote important political music if it doesn't bring them joy. So I totally understand your approach to things like this, whether it's Rage or this album.
I'm not saying we need to burn these albums in the street, but I'm definitely not going to listen to it. So
right, yeah. No, it wasn't as fun as some of her other albums. I'll agree with you there. Do we want to talk about the concurrent B-sides or rarities that came out with this one?
Yeah, so there's two, and they're both kind of political. Also, the Shaker Amir one was about prisoner in Guantanamo Bay, if I'm not mistaken. And that one was interesting, but again, it was a bit too much for me to say that I enjoyed it. I don't know. What you guys think of those? Got Nightingale and Shaker Amir.
I like the Nightingale a little bit more than Shaker Amir.
Yeah,
I thought they were both okay, like good, very stripped down. Definitely sound like demos, or but nothing particularly special in either of them.
Right. So next we've got the Hope Six Demolition Project, which came out 5 years later, so she took a bit of a break from releasing albums. We've got Flood, John Parrish, and PJ Harvey in the producer's booth on that one. And then the singles are The Wheel, The Community of Hope, and The Orange Monkey. So, Zach, why don't you tell us what you thought of this one?
again, I think it's more politically charged music. At least that was the take that my takeaway. I thought there
Absolutely.
was interesting use of saxophone. This is sax positive.
Yeah, there was some good horns in this one.
Horns and saxophone. I really liked that part of it. I thumbs up more songs on this one than the previous one. It's similar in the way that I think it just kind of it's okay, but it doesn't really strike me in any particular way. I mean, she can do like you were saying, Dan, she can do whatever she wants about politics and stuff. But I think for the listener, if it doesn't resonate in some sort of fashion, then it's gonna kind of get lost. I liked the community of hope. I liked, A Line in the Sand. I thought Near the Memorials to Vietnam and Lincoln was a pretty good song as well. And then I think it finishes really strong. I think like the last three songs are pretty tight, if you will. It's so
exactly what I thought when I listened to that.
It's a reference to a YouTube guy. Anyway, no, I thought this was interesting in a different way from the previous album, but it was also in some ways kind of a little bit of a letdown. It's not something where it's like, well, I gotta come back to this one and listen to this one more, and I very well could have actually listened. So I do remember listening to Let England Shake before, and I don't really remember listening to this one at all. But I'm not sure if that's because I actually did and forgot about it, or if it never really crossed my path. But there are some good songs on there. I just don't really love it that much. Dan, what do you think?
I like this one a little more than Let England Shake. It also has like you said, the political stuff mixed in there. But sometimes the political stuff doesn't feel awkward to me if it's telling a story about something. And I felt there was more of that. This one didn't jump out as being as specific and deliberately every song must be about a specific subject. I found more songs that jumped out to me. Community of Hope, Ministry of Defense, Chain of Keys, and then, like you said, Zach, the last three are really strong. The other ones I could take or leave. I did think that Medicinals had a cool like outro to it, but other than that, I didn't have a whole lot of feelings on the other half of the album. This felt like, to me, sonically more something different for PJ Harvey. It was almost like pub rock, like it was like sing-alongs in the bar. Like you could imagine.
Absolutely.
A lot of, especially the first half of the album, just people up on a short little 12-inch stage with guitars and stuff, just sort of singing these songs. And I thought that was kind of interesting because it was different, because that's not usually what her music sounds like. But I thought there were some strong songs and then some forgettable strong. So I think the highs were a little higher than Let England Shake, but it does not rate for me up with her best albums for sure. All right, Dave, what's your feelings on this one?
Yeah, when this one started, I was pretty worried. I was worried that we were going down a road that we were never going to come back from, where it was just going to be all political. And as I said about Let England Shake, this is not my favorite way to listen to music. I don't get much out of it. I did like the last two songs. I liked The Wheel and Dollar Dollar. And none of these songs, I don't want to be too doom and gloom, because I didn't thumbs down any of these songs. And there are plenty of bands we've done this with where I've thumbs down several songs. And that has not happened with PJ Harvey. These are not the worst albums we've covered. It's just not my style. I want to just, I don't want to have to think about that stuff. If I want politics in my entertainment, I'm going to listen to somebody making fun of politics. I don't want it to be the focal point of, and I'm not saying I can't have music that makes me think. Like her early stuff where she's, pointing out all the problems with masculinity and stuff and all the terrible things that I've done in life. I don't mind that. It's just something something about politics, it just doesn't sit well with me in music. So you want to tell me that me being a man is a bad thing? Fine, I'm good with that. But I don't want to be preached about politics in music. So yeah, I don't know. Did you guys have anything else about this, or do you want to move on to the B-sides? Because I think that's where the real meat of this section is.
Were we gonna say what we thought was the best song?
Oh yeah, we can do that. What did you guys think was the best song?
I liked A Line in the Sand a lot. That was my high point.
Okay, how about you, Dan?
I think I would go with Ministry of Defense, the second song. I just really liked the sort of staccato riff and the sort of, the sing-along part. So I thought it was cool.
And I really liked the wheel. I genuinely enjoyed it. It definitely was about politics, but and the state of the world. But I thought it was done well, and that's the other thing. If it's done well, that's fine. But it's not my favorite way to go. Now, onto the B-sides. This section of the B-sides are the songs from B-sides, demos, and rarities that I could not put into the timeline somewhere else because there wasn't enough information, or they were just they weren't released until this point in the timeline, because this is the point in the timeline where the actual album B-sides, demos, and rarities was released. So I absolutely loved An Acre of Land. I think this was my favorite style of PJ Harvey, where she's telling a story in this kind of mythological sense, where she's got things happening, and I just absolutely love her singing in it. A Crowded Cell was really good, and I did like The Camp also, despite everything I had previously said about the last two albums. So what did you guys think of these B-sides?
I thought they were all pretty good. I really liked The Moth. I thought The Moth was really interesting.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
I was excited when I saw Red Right Hand, and because that's a fun cover of
it is
Nick
a great
Cave.
cover of the Nick Cave song, yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised at how different it was, because usually people just go really straight on that one because it's such a good song to begin with, but she went a different direction, and I thought that was really cool.
I think that was for Peaky Blinders is what that one came out for.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
How about you, Dan? What did you think of the B-sides?
Yeah, I thought this was a really strong batch. The ones I highlighted, I gave pretty much all of them a thumbs up, I'm pretty sure. I highlighted I'll Be Waiting, Homo Sapien Blues. I thought the sort of like exuberance in the singing was really fun in that one.
Yeah.
The Camp was really good. Then I think she does makes good choices when she does duets or back and forths with people, and this is a good example of that. I agree, Dave. The An Acre of what is the name of the song?
An Acre of Land.
An Acre of Land. Yes. Okay. Yep. An Acre of Land. That's that sort of ancient folk song feel. I think she does amazing at that. She doesn't do it all the time, which makes it all the more impactful when she does it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a great one. And then the last three were very similar to me in their sort of arrangement and their piano bass. So I liked them all. The Sandman, The Moth. Is it Right Hand or Red Right Hand?
Red Right Hand.
Red Right Hand. Okay. So yeah, I would say the other ones were fine too. I didn't have a problem with any of them, but I thought this was there were some really good highlights there jumping out, and maybe that's because it's sort of taken from her full career more. Again, we don't know exactly when these were recorded apparently, but
yeah, I wish I could have found more information. I think several of them were just released, as part of the just at that time. Or they had never been released, and they were just finally being released. So it'd be interesting to know when they were recorded.
Yep.
Relative to the rest of her catalog. That leaves us with her final album, I Inside the Old Year Dying. And it's the last time I'm going to say that.
Ever.
This one just came out about 6 months ago. It's got 2 singles on it. A Child's Question. And there we go. I Inside the Old I Dying. I was wrong.
Yeah. And it's A Child's Question August, because there's also July.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes.
Are you confused yet?
No, I was confused before we got here. So, produced by Flood, John Parrish, Flood, John Parrish, and Rob Kirwan. Yeah, what did you guys think of this one?
I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I think it's a great album. There's only one song I didn't thumb up on it. I think it's also really interesting because usually in Ride or Die, when we get to this point, we're on the downward trend where the artist is kind of losing their magic. They've either been around for too long and they just don't really have anything new to say, or I just don't see that happening here. She seems like she's just, I wouldn't say just getting started, but she's very much still hitting peaks in her career.
Well, it's like she's reinvigorated.
It's reinvigorated, and there's new. She's finding new stuff to do, and I really love like some of the tonal elements and the way that she's doing the instrumentation in a different way. Like there are times in this album I couldn't really figure out what the instrument was behind the noise that was being made. Is it just like a synthesizer doing something really synthetic? I don't think so, because she doesn't really usually do a lot of that stuff, you know. So it's probably like guitar with a lot of really strange effects added onto it. But I love the sound of this one, and I love what she's doing on here. I think it's a really, really cool album. What are you guys' thoughts?
I really liked it too. I need to go back and thumbs up things better because I clearly missed several of them on this one. But I agree. It's a return to form. I was very worried that we were having that senior slump, if you will, where we were into albums, 10, 11, and 12, and things were just being redundant and uninteresting. I guess it's more for her. It's more that she went a different way than I enjoy. It feels like COVID happened. She went into her producer's booth and produced the shit out of all the B-sides and rarities and came out with that album. And then COVID ended and she was ready with the inspiration of all those great songs that she had never released or were released as B-sides, and just had this new interesting thing to say. And I really enjoyed this one too. Dan, what did you think of it?
I don't think I'm quite as in on it as you guys are. I knew, Zach, you were going to like it. It just feels like a Zach album to me. It's very atmospheric and spare for most of it. It's a little inscrutable and hard to sneak into. There's a lot of sounds, like you mentioned. There's not immediate gratification, which I think is a good thing in the long term.
Yeah.
But I didn't spend enough time with it to tip over the edge on it, you know?
But don't you feel like this one is, like, of these three, this one is the one you'll go back to and explore some more?
I think it has the most long-term potential. I would agree with you. It's one of those things where I think I need to listen to it a bunch more times to really let the songs like dig into my brain. The other ones were more immediate. It's funny. I was talking about how especially the second one sounds like a bar band type feel. That's more immediately. You can sort of grasp the music quickly, but that does not necessarily age as well. Whereas this is not that. This is the kind of the opposite of that.
It needs to age like a fine wine.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't sure what to do with the thumbs up or not. And I have to listen to it again and think it over before I sort of give a final call on it. But
yeah,
the highlights. Yeah, the highlights that I had in my notes were for Prayer at the Gate. It's just really quiet but powerful vocally. Lonesome Tonight, thought that was good. August, for some reason, made me think of Chris Isaak and Wicked Game. Maybe it was the drums, but there was something sort of, had that sort of general sense of sort of a little bit of mystery or something. I really like the creepiness of A Child's Question, July. And I love the percussion on a Noiseless Noise at the end of the album. Yeah, I would say that I found it more difficult to even take notes on the songs than usual because I just had trouble getting inside of them, but that probably bodes well for the future. So I think this one demands more careful attention than I was able to give it, really. So it's a sort of tentative. I think this might be a really great album. for me, it hasn't yet gotten up there with her best but I do think with time it very well may.
Yeah, I think I may have accidentally helped myself with this one because it came out last July and I listened to it around that time, but I wasn't really listening critically and paying attention. So I think it kind of seeped into my subconscious early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now going back and actually listening to it critically, it helped kind of bring out a lot of the nuance that's there, but takes some time to really get into.
It's very nuanced, and that's in opposition to the last couple albums, which makes it stand out. The last couple were less nuanced, for better or worse, for Dave for worse. But
like I said, they're not bad albums. They're just not something I want to listen to.
And if you have that particular feeling about that type of songwriting, then I absolutely get why you wouldn't understand it. That doesn't automatically strike me, so I like them. But I do think that this is more interesting. Like there's a more care put into it, and I feel like that will pay off with repeated listenings more and more as time goes by.
So what's your guys' favorites on this one? The favorite song?
On this one, my favorite song is the opening track, Prayer in the Gate.
Same with me. I love it. I feel like this is a return to form on the opener. And not that the last two albums didn't have good openers. It's just I feel like this one really, really sets the stage for what you're going to get for the rest of the album.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm tempted to say A Child's Question, July, just to be different, but I do think that Prayer at the Gate was the best one. So I think I'll have to agree with you guys.
You can still be a snowflake and agree, Dan. Don't worry.
Oh, is that what I am? Okay. Big fat snowflake.
You're special and unique, just like everyone else.
That's right.
But what if you take your problem to the United Nations, though?
Yeah, that's true. You can do that.
You can do that.
All right. Well, let's wrap up this section. Which of these three albums, and I for me, it's obvious. Which one are you going to take? It's the third one. I'm not saying the title again, though.
Yes, Eye Inside the Old Year Dying. That's the one that I'm gonna take as well.
I think that's the best bet. Right now I probably would recognize and enjoy more songs. The Hope Demolition Project, Hope Six Demolition Project, but I suspect that in the long run I'd be happier with Eye Inside the Old Year Dying. Just showing off, Dave. Zach and I can say it.
I am perfectly comfortable not being able to say those words in that sequence. So good for you guys. So of the 12, I think, albums we covered here in this series, which is your favorite? Which one album do you take?
Oh, geez.
Boy.
I got to look at the list.
My heart says To Bring You My Love, but I think I would actually want to go with Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea.
I know. That's because To Bring You My Love has...
Down by the Water.
Yeah, To Bring You My Love has Down by the Water, which is, probably my favorite song, if we want to get into that already. But I agree with you, Zach. I think Stories from the City, Stories of the Sea is just a nearly perfect album. Whereas To Bring You My Love has a couple of spots that are off. So I would pick Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea. I love it. How about you, Dan? Which one do you pick?
It's so hard. Just looking back at my notes here, because there's about 5 that I could consider.
Yeah.
So definitely To Bring You My Love is up there. I really like Her also.
That is a good one.
I like Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea, but I can say that's not my favorite, although it is on the top half. And there's some really, really strong moments in it. I love the Tom York collaborations in that one. Is This Desire is awfully good.
Yep.
Ooh, and I quite like Rid of Me. It's more in that sort of grungy style and really aggressive, but I really like it. I probably will say To Bring You My Love. I think it's a nice melding of her earlier, almost like sort of like there's almost like an aggression to it while it is at the same time not aggressive. Yeah, I'm going to say To Bring You My Love. I have to listen to them, like the top 5 albums again to say for sure. That's the problem, because her best albums are all very, very good.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would count Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea in there. It's just I think just 3 or 4 that I would pick over that one, but that one's also great. So yeah, she's got a ton of good stuff.
All right. Anything else before we ask the big final question?
What is the big final question?
I will say that once again, I was an idiot for not embracing PJ Harvey when I was 16, when I really got to know.
I will agree with that.
The songs. I blew it.
Same.
And Zach, you are you saying that you agree that we're idiots, or are you saying that you also
very much saying I agree you are idiots?
I always thought it was good, but I'm
also slightly an idiot for like missing White Chalk and the Hope Six Demolition Project. I wasn't
later stuff
completely all in on my ride or die, but I was pretty close.
Yeah.
So then, are you ride or die?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I was a little bit on the edge with those last two albums, but Eye Inside the Old Year Dying brought it back around. Definitely looking forward to anything else she comes out with, and I plan to listen to. We didn't really talk about them much, but she's got like 2 soundtracks that she made for some shows, I think, in her repertoire, and I plan to listen to those very soon too.
I think they're instrumental though. That's why I didn't include them.
It's okay by me.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that too, but that's ultimately why they didn't get included in the catalog.
Yeah, no.
Dan, are you ride or die?
Yeah, which is interesting because I knew a handful of songs and had heard some of the earlier albums, but like, it's weird to say you ride or die for a band, for a artist that you can barely say that you're a fan of before. Like, I was a fan of in theory, but I never really dove in. But I have to say it's a really strong discography, really, really strong. She just keeps reinventing and finding different ways to do it without repeating herself. Yeah, she's pretty amazing. I would say ride or die for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. While I may not be a fan of every album, I don't think that those albums just weren't written for me. What were they? Hope Six, Demolition Project, and Let England Shake. It's just not my style, and that's fine because there's so much good content here, and especially after the latest album, I'm really looking forward to if she comes out with anything else. So I'm definitely ride or die.
It's also interesting how she doesn't really do a lot of like filler songs. You know what I mean? Like her albums are pretty solid straight through. It's not like the Red Hot Chili Peppers where it's just every little scrap of music that they could ever find. They just chuck on the album.
And then you know what? Even if she had, honestly, if I have one album that I get to take, it's the B-sides, demos, and rarities.
Oh yeah,
that has. I mean, it's not fair because it's 60 tracks. So it obviously has the most good songs on it.
Those 5 albums have a lot of good songs on them.
Yeah, exactly. It's phenomenal the amount of stuff that got cut. That
right, yeah.
You could make an amazing double album out of that, like of 28 songs of the best, and it would be pretty great.
Yeah.
But it really shows how she takes extreme care to make sure that what's going on the albums is the most appropriate thing for that collection of songs.
Absolutely.
For that theme that she's going for. And I think that's really, really amazing for this kind of artist. A lot of times they don't do that. They just, they let the producer or the studio, the music label do all the decisions about what gets included on the album. And I think she's going for something very specific, and she knows what she wants, and she does that.
And it's interesting. You use the word artist, and I think she is, and how particular she is about all the aspects of it. When you think about all the poetry, and then also the way that she creates new personas for every album, like visually in her clothing for the not only for the album, like photo shoots, but like on tour and stuff. She really is paying attention to everything she can pay attention to, and is trying to do the most she can, I think. And it makes her sort of a singular figure in the last 30 years, I think, in sort of pop rock ish, folkish music. She's kind of one of a kind, I think.
Yep, without a doubt. So, are you a fan of PJ Harvey? Tell us what you think in the comments. Do the algorithm things like and subscribe. And if you want more content like this, you can find everything we've done at 64tacos.com. And if you really liked it, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/64tacos and you can buy us a taco. Thanks for listening.
I caught it on audio.